What does it actually look like when a woman reaches her breaking point? And why do we judge her response more than we examine what broke her? Today, we're talking about Black Swan and Eat, Pray, Love, two 2010 films that show us different paths women take when perfection becomes unbearable, and why both deserve more honest conversation than they usually get. Black Swan follows Nina Sayers, a talented ballerina who lands the lead role in Swan Lake. The role requires her to embody both the innocent white swan and the sensual black swan. But Nina's obsessive pursuit of perfection, fueled by her controlling mother and demanding director, sends her spiraling into psychological breakdown. Director Darren Aronofsky called it a companion piece to The Wrestler, explaining that wrestling and ballet represent the lowest and highest art forms. But performers in both worlds share the same destructive dedication. That dedication was real. Natalie Portman's trainer described her regiment: 5 hours a day, 6 days a week, while she's working other jobs. We're meeting at 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning, doing ballet for 2 or 3 hours. She goes and works a 12-hour day and meets me at the gym at night. Portman herself admitted, "I love dancing so much that I just thought it was going to be so fun to be able to dance at work, that it would be part of my job. But I didn't realize how physically grueling it would be." The irony is almost too perfect. An actress pushing herself to the breaking point to portray a character destroying herself through the same obsessive dedication. Meanwhile, Eat, Pray, Love gives us Liz Gilbert, who has everything society says should make her happy: a husband, a house, a successful career. When she finds herself crying on the bathroom floor, she makes a drastic choice: divorce and a year-long journey across Italy, India, and Indonesia to rediscover herself. The film grossed nearly $200 million worldwide, but critics savaged it with a 34% Rotten Tomatoes score. Black Swan, by contrast, earned 85% and won Portman an Oscar. Both films understand that burnout doesn't start with the breakdown. Nina's mother, Erica, is a former dancer whose career ended when she got pregnant, and she's poured all her frustrated ambition into her daughter. Nina's bedroom looks like it belongs to a child, not a woman in her 20s. Stuffed animals, pink walls, the arrested development of someone who's never been allowed to grow into herself. Liz has shaped herself into what everyone else needs. In the book, Elizabeth Gilbert was clear about not wanting children, the painful realization that destroyed her marriage. The film softens this, making Liz's dissatisfaction vaguer and easier to dismiss. NPR's Linda Holmes noted, "Book Liz had an unhappy marriage to an often unkind person, followed unsuccessful efforts to get pregnant with the painful realization that she didn't want to get pregnant. Movie Liz wakes up one night unhappy in her marriage and dumps her apparently sweet and loving husband." This distinction matters. Nina's struggle is externalized through horror: hallucinations, body horror, visible deterioration. Liz's struggle is internalized and therefore more easily dismissed as whining. Both are performing versions of themselves that have nothing to do with who they actually are, but we have more sympathy for suffering we can see. Nina's breakdown manifests as psychological horror. She scratches at her skin until it bleeds, develops an eating disorder, one hard-boiled egg and half a grapefruit for breakfast daily, and hallucinates that her body is transforming into an actual swan. The film was praised for its unflinching portrayal of how perfectionism leads to diagnosable mental illness, obsessive-compulsive tendencies, eating disorders, and psychosis. Feminist film critics debate whether Nina is a victim or complicit in her own destruction. Some argue the film shows how patriarchal systems, her predatory director Thomas and narcissistic mother, destroy women. Others contend that Nina's perfectionism is so internalized that she's destroying herself even when no one is watching. Liz's breakdown is quieter, but no less real. She sobs on the bathroom floor, has panic attacks, and feels dissociated from her own existence. But Eat, Pray, Love became both phenomenon and punchline. The film spawned over 400 merchandising tie-ins, from $152 prayer bead necklaces to complete travel packages. Tourism to Bali exploded. One healer Gilbert visited quadrupled his prices. The F-Word feminist blog called out the film's central problem. Eat, Pray, Love's unfortunate and overwhelming message is that women are inherently flawed, a problem that can only be solved by spending a great deal of money on external help. The film omits that Gilbert funded her year with a book advance, transforming the story from follow your heart to be rich enough to afford self-discovery. Nina turns inward, doubling down on control, practicing harder, restricting more. When control is all you've ever known, you try to perfect your way out of a breakdown. Director Thomas tells her, perfection is not just about control, it's also about letting go. But for Nina, letting go means psychosis. She can only access her black swan through complete mental breakdown. Liz runs putting an ocean between herself and everything suffocating her. The feminist debate is fierce. Supporters argue that leaving an unfulfilling life is brave. Critics counter that only privileged white women get to frame abandoning responsibilities as self-discovery. Scholar Angela McRobbie noted that Eat, Pray, Love reflects post-feminist culture, where empowerment is repackaged as individual consumer choice rather than collective liberation. Nina achieves her perfect performance, dancing flawlessly as both swans. Her last words words are, "I was perfect." She's also dying from a self-inflicted stab wound, bleeding out backstage while the audience applauds. Black Swan was nominated for 5 Oscars. Critics called it a masterpiece. We romanticize Nina's sacrifice as the price of genius. Liz finds herself through food, meditation, and love while maintaining her independence. Rolling Stone's Peter Travers called watching the film being trapped with a person of privilege who won't stop with the wine, wine, wine. The Guardian gave it 1 out of 5 stars. Think about that. Nina destroys herself, and we call it art. Liz saves herself, and we call it selfish. When men have midlife crises, American Beauty, Lost in Translation, we make movies celebrating their journeys. When women do it, we call them narcissists. Film critic Alyssa Wilkinson noted that Black Swan succeeds because it makes female suffering beautiful and therefore palatable. Eat, Pray, Love fails because it makes female happiness look ordinary, and ordinary women's lives don't interest us unless they're suffering. The cultural aftermath reveals our discomfort with women's burnout responses. Black Swan spawned academic papers and serious conversations about perfectionism, eating disorders, and body dysmorphia in competitive fields. Mental health professionals praised it for showing that perfectionism isn't quirky. It's psychological distress that escalates into breakdown. Meanwhile, Eat, Pray, Love launched Eat, Pray, Love Tourism and merchandise tie-ins, from prayer beads to curated travel packages. Nina can't buy her way out, making her struggle universal and tragic. Liz literally travels away from her problems with resources most women don't have, making her struggle feel exclusive. Both films tapped into real female burnout. We just chose to take one seriously and turn the other into a punchline. These films ask what women are willing to sacrifice for approval, but they also reveal what we're willing to accept from women's stories. Both show women who ignored warning signs until they couldn't anymore. The question these 2010 films ask is still relevant. What does recovery from burnout look like for women? And why are we more comfortable watching them break than watching them heal? This is Ladies First, watching women in movies. Here, we empower women by reviewing and discussing films that highlight their stories, struggles, and achievements. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments.